I want to talk today a little bit about the value of risk and how cities struggle when they fail to calculate the value of risk. Now, the value of risk may be a strange concept, but it's one that's fairly easy to understand in pretty simplistic mathematical terms. Let's have a coin toss. If it's heads, you get $0. If it's tails, you get $200. The value of that risk is $100. If you toss that coin 100 times, on average, you'll get $100 a toss. Fairly easy to understand the concept of the value of risk. But as it turns out, human beings have a lot of difficulty with that concept intuitively. It's unnatural for humans, and humans are naturally risk averse. So if you ask a human being, I'm going to give you a choice, a guarantee of $100 or a coin toss for $0 or $200. Invariably, people choose the guaranteed $100, even though the two have exactly the same value. And in fact, what psychologists have found is that they will choose the guaranteed choice, even if the other choice has a higher value. So if you tell a human, I'll give you a guarantee of $75 or $50 versus a coin toss that has an expected value of $100, they'll take the $75 or $50 because humans intuitively are risk averse and intuitively want to take the guaranteed choice. Now, this is a problem for organizations of humans, and particularly it's a problem for cities. Because of course, cities are nothing more than a group of humans who are making decisions, often based on intuition. And so, it's also a further problem for cities because cities, in order to be successful, in order to not fail, must embrace risk, must be progressive. You see, cities are optional. You can live in the United States and you must live in a state and you must be subject to the United States, but you don't have to live in a city. Cities are optional. And still, even though living in a city means a higher level of regulation, a higher level of laws that you're subject to, another layer of government, more taxes, more fees, and so forth, something like 60+% of Americans make the affirmative choice to live in cities and to make themselves subject to additional taxes and additional fees and additional layers of government. Cities are optional, but a lot of people make that choice. And so why do they make the choice? Well, they make the choice simply because cities provide things, or should provide things, that people can't get otherwise, right? People want restaurants and bars and theaters and performing arts centers and shops. And in order to get those things, they move to cities. In order to be successful and to not fail, and cities can fail, they have to provide those things. And those things are exceedingly expensive. They can't provide them on their own. So in order to provide them, they have to enter into partnerships with public and private and nonprofit organizations. And they have to engage in risk. They have to be progressive. The concept of the government that governs best, governs least, does not apply to a city. Because if you want government not to do anything, you can move out to the county and get yourself a septic tank and a well and be free of the city. But if you want government to do something and provide something, you're willing to move to the city and you're willing to take that additional cost and those additional rules of zoning and regulations of land use and additional taxes in order to get the things that cities provide. And in order to provide those things, back to where we started, cities must take risks. But as I said, cities are made up of humans, and humans are risk averse, intuitively risk averse. And so you see the dilemma. Now, case in point, we're here in my beloved city of Florence, South Carolina. The city of Florence is a great city within an urban area of about 90,000 plus people. And over the last several decades, like many southern cities, Florence saw a deterioration of its downtown we're standing and sitting in today. And that downtown over the years, because of economic factors that affected cities in the South and everywhere probably in the country, the mall was built, highways connected, people left cities. They moved to suburban areas. They stopped going to the downtown. And when they stopped going to the downtown, it became decrepit. It became boarded up. It became abandoned. It smelled of mold and bat guano. And it wasn't somewhere people went. And as a result, the city failed. It failed to provide those things that attract people to the city. And about 5 years ago, the city was presented with an opportunity where a set of developers were interested in building in downtown Florence, among the boarded up buildings, a new boutique hotel with a new fine restaurant. And they wanted to spend $5 to $7 million. But they calculated how much revenue those hotel rooms would generate, how much revenue the restaurant would generate, calculated the cost of refurbishing an old building that they were going to go into. And when they calculated the cost and they calculated the revenue, they came up about 15 to 20% short. They needed the city to mitigate that risk, which amounted to be about $1 million. So they came to the city and they said, can you help us? Now, the natural human intuition is you must be out of your ever-loving mind. You want this politician, right, to spend $1 million of city taxpayer revenue on a hotel on Evans Street, which is surrounded by deterioration and neglect, and surrounded by a downtown that has repeated history of failures, and everybody in town expects another failure. You want us to take that risk? Are you crazy? But we didn't submit to that intuition. It was there. Certainly it was there. But we didn't submit to it. And instead what we did is we did some math. And as it turns out, as with the coin toss of $0 and $200, math is the answer to incorrect intuition, right? It's pretty simple math to calculate. You toss the coin 100 times, your expected value is $100. And it can pretty quickly, if you pay attention to it, overcome your incorrect intuition. And so we started doing the math. And what did the math show us? Well, the building they were going to go into was producing an annual property tax revenue of about $500 a year. That's the kind of condition it was in. They were going to spend somewhere between $5 and $7 million, resulting in a property tax increase from $500 a year to about $100,000 a year. And we could rebate 85% of that revenue to them, generate for them, over the course of about 7 years, $600,000, and still see an increase in our property tax from $500 to $15,000. Even if the project failed. I mean, if they built it, they'd pay the property tax. Even if the hotel failed and they never had a single customer, that revenue would still be there for the city. And they were going to have a hotel, which means they were going to spend a significant amount of water and sewer. Now, it's not unusual. If the hotel was going to build on the edge of town and they wanted us to extend water and sewer lines, we could calculate pretty effectively how much the water and sewer line extension would cost the city, how much revenue would be generated by the water and sewer usage from the customer. If those numbers come to 1-to-1, we do it every day. Well, we could calculate with pretty convincing accuracy how much water and sewer revenue would be generated by that hotel. And so we did. And it was well over the amount of expenditure they were expecting from us. And even, like I said, if they never generated water and sewer revenue, still you had the property taxes that would be generated over the years, and we would very quickly recoup our expense. The risk was very effectively minimal. The result, if successful, in direct financial terms was strong, but in effect to the community was even stronger. And in effect, we made the, I think, right decision. We calculated the risk, we took the risk, and In the 7 years since, there's been nearly $200 million expended in the 2 or 3 block area surrounding that hotel, including the little theater that we're sitting in today. So I think the moral of the story is we do a disservice to ourselves sometimes when we listen to our intuition and don't do the math. We misvalue risk. And if a city is going to be successful, we have to value risk correctly and engage in it. And it's my hope and dream that we'll continue to do so. Thank you for your time today.